Sounds of waves crashing against the hull of a ship. The creaking of wood mingles with the noise of the wind slicing through the sails. The smell of salt permeates the air, while the eyes of the Roman soldiers, firm and resolute, face the enemy on the horizon. The water stretches like a distorted mirror, reflecting the crimson glow of the rising sun. The sea, since time immemorial, belongs to the navigators, to the peoples who dared to challenge its fury and made it their domain. Carthage was one of those powers. For centuries, its ships glided over the waves like silent predators, uncontested, absolute masters of the Mediterranean. Rome, a land force, a war machine forged in the solidity of the soil, seemed destined to bow before Carthaginian naval supremacy. But the Romans were not known for accepting limitations. They did not know the word impossible. Their army was an indomitable force, a storm of steel and discipline that reduced kingdoms to submission. Yet, at sea, they were inexperienced, vulnerable. And to challenge Carthage, they would need more than strength, they would need ingenuity. It was then that an innovation emerged that would redefine naval combat. A simple yet brutal weapon. A wooden bridge that carried with it the Roman spirit, the will to transform any battlefield into their own territory. The Corvus. It was not just a plank with a hook. It was the manifestation of Rome's relentless mentality. If they could not win at sea, then they would make naval warfare cease to be fought on the water. They would bring it to where they were invincible, to hand-to-hand combat. With a single blow, the Corvus would fall upon the enemy vessel, embedding itself in the deck like the talons of an eagle capturing its prey. And then, like wolves traversing the night, the legionaries would storm the enemy ships, turning the waves into a Roman battlefield. Thus, Carthage, the unquestionable maritime power, found its nightmare. An innovation, a bridge of wood and iron, turned the tide of war. The Corvus made the Romans masters of the sea not by the skill of navigation, but by the ability to transform any place into a favorable battleground. But this weapon, so feared and so effective, had an unexpected fate. Despite its initial victories, the Corvus would not be used forever. Its creation marked the beginning of Roman dominance at sea, but it also brought challenges that questioned its effectiveness. And here arises the question, if the Corvus was so decisive, why did it disappear? Was it a strategic mistake? Or did Rome, with its unparalleled adaptability, find an even more efficient way to dominate the seas? I want to know your opinion. If you were a Roman general, would you trust the Corvus or think of another strategy to defeat Carthage? Comment below and share your thoughts on this historical innovation. The story of the Corvus teaches us something powerful. True strength lies not in where we are now, but in our capacity for adaptation and overcoming. Just as Rome transformed its greatest challenge into an advantage, you too can revolutionize your life by seeing obstacles as opportunities. Here, on this channel, we are building a legion of strategic minds, people who do not accept limits and who want to learn from history to transform their own path. Each video is a new territory conquered, each piece of knowledge absorbed is a new weapon for your journey. But for this mission to continue growing, we need you. Like this video now and subscribe to the channel. It's not just a click, it's a step towards spreading this message to more people, to form a community of strategists, visionaries, and conquerors of their own history. If you believe that knowledge is a powerful weapon, join us. Activate the bell so you don't miss any videos and share this idea with those who also need to understand that every great victory begins with a simple decision. The empire is growing. Are you part of this revolution? Comment below and let's shape the future together. The Mediterranean was never just a sea. It was a liquid road to power, an arena where empires rose and fell with the strength of their fleets. In the 3rd century BC, two giants vied for dominance, Rome and Carthage. Carthage was not merely a trading city, it was a commercial empire, a naval power whose influence extended across the waters that bathed Sicily, Spain, and North Africa. Its ships, designed for speed and maneuverability, were manned by experienced sailors, mercenaries trained to win battles at sea. Carthaginian trade filled the Mediterranean ports with wealth, and its navy protected these interests with unquestionable might. Rome, on the other hand, was a land power. Its legions were unbeatable in field battles, their discipline and organization transforming the chaos of war into a spectacle of lethal precision. But at sea? At sea, Rome was inexperienced. Its soldiers were trained to fight on land, not to handle oars or hoist sails. While Carthage had centuries of naval tradition, Rome barely had a fleet worthy of being called a maritime army. This inequality became evident early in the first clashes of the First Punic War, 264 BC, 241 BC. Rome needed Sicily to expand its influence, but without a navy capable of facing Carthage, its ambition stumbled upon the impossibility of crossing the sea safely. Without naval control, its legions were trapped on the continent, unable to challenge Carthaginian dominance. But Rome never accepted defeat as fate. If it didn't have a fleet, it would build one. If it didn't have sailors, it would train soldiers to become warriors of the sea. When a wrecked Carthaginian ship was found on the Roman coast, the war engineers saw an opportunity. They dismantled every piece of the vessel, studied its structure, and built hundreds of copies, launching a completely new navy into the sea. But copying the enemy's ships was not enough. Rome still faced an insurmountable barrier. Even with vessels similar to the Carthaginian ones, their crews did not have the same level of experience. Naval battles still favored the enemy. Rome needed a differentiator, a weapon that would eliminate Carthage's maritime advantage and transform the seas into a new battlefield, a battlefield where the Romans would be unbeatable. It was then that the Corvus emerged. A brutal innovation. A movable bridge that not only leveled the playing field but completely turned the game around. The sea, for centuries the territory of Carthage, was about to become the stage for the greatest military adaptation in Roman history. In a world where war was defined by experience and tradition, innovation was a weapon as lethal as the blade of a sword. The Romans understood this when they looked to the sea and realized they could not defeat Carthage by playing by the established rules. They needed to rewrite the way naval battles were fought. And thus, the Corvus was born, a simple yet brutally effective invention that would forever transform Roman military strategy at sea. The Corvus was not a conventional weapon. It did not fire projectiles, it did not cut masts, nor did it set enemy sails ablaze. Its strength lay in what Rome did best, turning any battle into a hand-to-hand confrontation, where its legions were unbeatable. It was essentially an invasion bridge, an ingenious device that made a naval battle an extension of land warfare. Small blue diamond features of the Corvus, a wooden plank approximately 11 meters long and 1.2 meters wide, large enough to allow armed soldiers to pass. Fixed to the deck of the Roman ship via a vertical mast, which served as an axis for its movement. At the tip, a heavy iron hook shaped like a raven's beak, designed to embed itself in the enemy vessel and secure it to the Roman ship. The operation was as simple as it was lethal. When a Carthaginian ship approached, the Romans activated the mechanism that released the Corvus. Like a mechanical arm of death, it descended violently, piercing the enemy's deck and firmly binding the two vessels together. What was once open sea instantly became a Roman battlefield. The Corvus not only connected the ships, it forced the Carthaginians to fight in the only scenario where Rome had always held superiority, direct combat. From that moment on, the fate of the battle was sealed. In an instant, the Roman legions crossed the wooden bridge as if invading a fortress, disembarking on the enemy ship with shields raised and gladi in hand. What had once been a confrontation of naval tactics and maritime maneuvers now turned into a massacre conducted with the precision and discipline of a Roman legion. The Carthaginians, accustomed to winning battles with speed and strategy, found themselves trapped in a snare where their greatest advantage, mobility at sea, was completely neutralized. The impact of this invention was overwhelming. With the Corvus, Rome not only leveled the playing field, it changed the rules of the game. The sea, for so long an unquestionable territory of Carthage, began to transform into a stage where the Roman Republic dictated the rhythm of war. The impact of the Corvus in the Punic Wars in the history of warfare. Some inventions not only change battles but completely rewrite the rules of conflict. The Corvus was one such innovation. It not only balanced the forces between Rome and Carthage, but turned the game in a way that few could have predicted. With this brutal contraption, Rome began to accumulate naval victories that had previously seemed impossible. Battle of Mylae, 260 BC, Rome's first great naval victory. Until that moment, Carthaginian naval superiority was unquestionable. The Carthaginian navy dominated the seas with speed and strategy, while Rome was still learning to navigate. But at Mylae, this narrative changed drastically. Rome, with its newly built fleet equipped with the Corvus, faced a superior Carthaginian force. If it had been a traditional naval battle, the outcome would have already been sealed. However, the Romans did not play by the Carthaginian rules, they created their own. As the enemy ships approached, the Corvus were activated, locking the Carthaginian vessels and turning the sea into a land battlefield over the waters. The Roman soldiers crossed the wooden bridges as if they were invading a castle. What had once been a battle of naval maneuvers turned into brutal hand-to-hand combat. The discipline and strength of the Roman legions prevailed. The result? Over 50 Carthaginian ships destroyed and a resounding victory for Rome. For the first time, Carthage saw its invincibility at sea challenged. Battle of Ecnomo, 256 BC, one of the greatest naval battles in history. The victory at Mylae was just the beginning. Encouraged by the success of their new strategy, Rome continued to invest in expanding its fleet and using the Corvus as the centerpiece of its naval doctrine. In 256 BC, the greatest test of this innovation occurred, the Battle of Ecnomo. This time, the Roman forces faced a gigantic Carthaginian fleet, one of the largest ever assembled. The confrontation was monumental, and Carthage still believed that its experience at sea would prevail. But again, the Corvus made all the difference. The Roman tactic was simple and lethal: advance rapidly, trap the enemy ships with the Corvus, and turn the naval battle into a land combat. The strategy was an absolute success. The impact was so great that Rome, for the first time, felt confident enough to launch an invasion of Africa, something that had previously seemed unthinkable. With this new approach, the Romans no longer needed to be exceptional sailors. They did not need to master winds and currents like the Carthaginians. They only needed to get close, lock the enemy ships, and bring the battle to their own territory, direct combat, where they were unbeatable. The Corvus not only brought strategic victories, it changed the fate of the First Punic War. Carthage's naval dominance was, for the first time, being seriously challenged. The decline of the Corvus, why did they stop using it? Every innovation has its peak and, inevitably, its decline. The Corvus, which had transformed Rome from a land power into a real threat at sea, also brought with it challenges that the Romans could not ignore. Although it secured crucial victories in the early phases of the First Punic War, its use began to be questioned as Rome gained more naval experience and faced the practical challenges of this invention. Initially, the Corvus seemed the perfect solution to the Romans' lack of naval skill. They had found a way to fight at sea as if they were on land, something that aligned with their military tradition. However, this advantage was not sustainable in the long term. As Rome expanded its fleet and faced new battles, the problems of this contraption began to become evident. Before we move on to the next topic, I noticed that you haven't liked this video yet. This is super important as it helps YouTube promote our content to more people, allowing us to continue bringing you more information to help you. So, don't waste time, leave your like here, it's free and makes all the difference. Thanks! The Corvus added extra power to Roman vessels, making them unstable. In calm seas, this wasn't a major issue, but in rough waters, ships became vulnerable to rolling, making it difficult for crews to maintain balance and accuracy, increasing the risk of capsizing. The Carthaginian fleet's agility was a great advantage. Their light, well-trained ships could maneuver quickly, surrounding and attacking enemies with precision. In contrast, Roman ships with the heavy Corvus lost mobility, becoming easy targets for flanking attacks and ramming strategies. The true blow against the Corvus came during storms in the Mediterranean. The metal structure and solid wood of the boarding plank increased the risk of sinking, as they made ships too heavy to withstand strong winds and waves, leading to catastrophic losses for the Roman fleet. Roman naval tactics refined over time. Sailors became true maritime combatants, reducing the need to turn battles into land combat. Rome could confront Carthage at sea, and shipbuilding changes made vessels faster and more agile, improving their ability to withstand adverse conditions. The Corvus required heavy materials and structural reinforcements, making ship construction expensive and complex. As Rome expanded its fleet, it became more advantageous to invest in efficient ships rather than using a technology that was no longer essential. Initially, the Corvus was necessary for Rome, lacking naval tradition, to level the playing field against Carthage. But as Romans gained experience, they realized the Corvus was no longer essential. Adaptation and learning became their true weapon, not relying solely on a single invention. Rome began to better train sailors and refine naval tactics, no longer needing to turn every battle into a land confrontation. They learned to fight at sea, improving vessels and developing effective strategies against Carthaginians, crucial for consolidating maritime supremacy. Even abandoned, the Corvus left its mark on military history. It showed that creativity and innovation could reverse unfavorable scenarios, allowing a land army to challenge a naval power. It represented Rome's ability to reinvent itself and find solutions to its challenges. The Corvus was a symbol of Roman ingenuity and determination, crucial for achieving naval supremacy to defeat Carthage and expand dominion over the Mediterranean. Its impact was immeasurable, proving essential in Rome's rise to power. The story of the Corvus is a testament to the power of innovation. Rome, a land power without a naval tradition, dared to challenge the masters of the sea with a strategy that transformed naval battles into land combat. It was this ingenuity that allowed the Roman Republic to confront and overcome the Carthaginian navy, paving the way for Roman supremacy in the Mediterranean. But like all technology, the Corvus had its peak and its decline. It was the key to naval victories, but also a burden that limited the evolution of Roman naval power. As Rome became more experienced at sea, it realized that it needed to adapt its tactics and rely more on the skill of its sailors than on a single invention. Without the Corvus, perhaps Rome would never have defeated Carthage at sea. And without mastery of the seas, its expansion would have been much more difficult. War is not won solely with brute force, but with strategy, adaptation, and innovation. This was the true lesson that Rome left us: success belongs to those who are not afraid to change and evolve. And so, a simple invention changed the fate of Rome forever. The Corvus may have been abandoned, but its lesson remained: innovation can overcome even the greatest disadvantages. If Rome had not dared to think differently, perhaps its rise to dominance in the Mediterranean would never have happened. And now, I want to know your opinion. Did you already know this story? Do you think Rome would have won without the Corvus? Leave your comment down below, I read them all. And if you made it this far, you are already part of this mission. This channel exists to bring stories like this, showing how strategies, innovation, and courage shape the world. If you like this content, don't leave without giving a like. It helps the channel grow and spread this message to more people. And most importantly, subscribe now and activate the bell. This way, you will always receive epic videos like this and join a community that values knowledge and history. Rome was not built in a day, and this community wasn't either, but with you here, we are getting stronger every day. See you in the next video. Forward.